Jai Gurudev, Dr. Renu. Hari Om.
Jai Gurudev, Hari Om. How is Nana?
Nana is fine. Nana, Amma both are fine.
And they are in Hyderabad?
They're settling, yeah, they're settling down. They're doing well.
And when will he join us?
Maybe it will take some time. I haven't, he's not really mentioned when he would like to join. We'll continue till then.
Yeah, that's like in a month or in a
Yeah.
We miss him.
I know, we miss him, correct.
Very much, yeah.
Right. When are you traveling to Canada?
I am booked for
First
of
February.
February.
Okay.
1st of February, this month, for this month. Somebody has to take over, maybe technology or anyone. I hate to say because technology and technology are already taking so much.
No problem. We'll talk about that. We'll start now. It's 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Don't worry. Don't worry about that. Okay? Yeah. Om Brahmanandam Paramasukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami Shruti Smriti Puranam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Padarayana Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Sadashivasamarabham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara Vande Guru Parampara Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Chaiva Tato Jayamudirayet Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 So we were in this shloka. I'm just going to read the shloka and we'll go back to the Swadharma part. Shreyan Swadharmo Vigunaha Paradharmat Swanushtitat Swadharme Nidhanam Shreyaha Paradharmo Bhayavaha. Better is one's own imperfectly performed dharma than the well-performed dharma of another. Death in one's own dharma is better. The dharma of another is fraught with fear. We have seen that with reference to sense objects, form, sounds, smells, tastes, etc., certain objects are looked upon as desirable while others are not. These likes and dislikes arise in your mind in the form of various types of wants for which you are not responsible. It is here that the Shastra comes in. Wherever there is doership and enjoyership centered on free will, wherever free will has access, the Shastra has its sphere of influence. The Shastra deals with dharma and adharma, right and wrong, satya and mithya, the real and the unreal. All these are dependent on viveka, vichara, discriminative inquiry for the person who is free. Therefore, the Shastra is not deemed to be useless simply because the previous verse declared that each person behaves according to his or her own nature, which cannot be controlled. This prakriti, one's nature, is only with reference to the appearance of raga dveshas in the form of various thoughts arising in your mind. It is true that your swabhava, your nature, is responsible for the appearance of these raga dveshas, but whether you go along with them depends entirely upon you. There are always certain governing factors for any course of action. What is proper, what is useful to you, what is feasible, all determine which raga, which like you choose to follow or fulfill. Certain norms of pragmatism and ethics, dharma and adharma, also have to be taken into account. So there are so many factors which come into whether the raga dveshas that prop up in our mind are actually going to be acted upon. And that depends entirely on our free will. The raga dveshas are not under our control because they are completely under the control of Prakriti. It is only because of that that we have the raga dvesh. So that extent, there is no control. But whether or not we act upon that, it's governed by whether what is proper, that is dharma, dharma, what is useful to you, what is feasible, and all determine which raga, which like you choose to follow, as well as pragmatism, certain norms of pragmatism. Okay, I think, yeah. An ethical person need not necessarily be a karma yogi. If there is an awareness of Ishvara in your choice of action, it is karma yoga. Until then, it is simply the choice of a mature person. A mature person is one who has ethics, for which one need not have religion. Bertrand Russell, for example, wrote a book called Why I Am Not a Christian. He never claimed to have any religious leanings and even wrote in so many words that he had nothing to do with such matters. At the same time, this man was a clean person and the first to raise his voice against the proliferation of nuclear weapons. He was a man of great ethics without having any religion. Any thinking person understands ethics. Everyone knows what others should and should not do to him or her. Everyone also knows that others expect the same in return. Thus, ethics are born of common sense, not of religion, and can be understood more clearly and assimilated if the person has a certain degree of maturity. One's own experiences in life and understanding are enough to understand what is proper and improper. Thus, no one needs religious scriptures or mandates in order to be an ethical person. However, the religious scriptures of the world add something to ethical values. They say that if you perform an improper action, you cannot get away with it. You will have to pay for it later. This is where the concepts of punya and papa, merit and demerit come in. According to the karma performed, there is a certain result that comes to you. It is like a ticket you get from a parking violation, which is not going to be as severe as a ticket from a speeding offense. Similarly, according to the karma performed, there is a result called adrishta phala, punya and papa. That there is such a result as adrishta phala is additional information gleaned from the scriptures. But for merely understanding what is ethical and unethical, religion is not required. Thus, a person can be ethical without being a karma yogi. He or she becomes a karma yogi only when there is an appreciation on the part of the person that Ishvara is the giver of the results of action. Karma phala data. A karma yogi is a bhakta, a devotee, one who does not look upon one's possessions as one's own. For such a person, a physical body is given, a mind is given, the world is given, opportunities are given, resources are given, skills are given, time is given, place is given, everything is given. This is such a beautiful sentence. I think we'll have to etch it up. That is when that mamakara will come down. Everything is just given by Ishvara. There is no mindness there. One who does not look upon one's possessions as one's own, because everything is given. Only when one appreciates the given and also the giver behind the given is there karma yoga. Ethically, therefore, one can be clean. But this in itself is not karma yoga, all of which has been pointed out.
I think the whole life is given.
That's what, no? So the world is given, mind is given, everything,
No,
even the time.
Life itself, the born, no? How do we born? It is given. It is not.
Correct.
That is big.
He is the karma dhyaksha and the karma phala data, both. Only when one appreciates the given and also the giver behind the given is there karma yoga. Ethically, therefore, one can be clean, but this in itself is not karma yoga, all of which has been pointed out. If what is to be done by you at this time and place and what you want to do happen to concur, then your action is spontaneous and no thinking is required. Also, when what is not to be done is something that you do not want to do, avoidance or withdrawal from such an action is spontaneous. Even if someone asks you to do it, your no is spontaneous because you do not have any such inclination and also the action is not to be done.
I remember here Guruji's this one. No? When we act spontaneously, your act becomes 100%. That is, he tells many times, this. With the spontaneous act, you think that it is the correct act. 100%.
Yeah.
This sentence helps in analyzing that.
Correct.
He has told this in Ashtavakra, or I don't know. Many times he has told this. What to act instantly, not thinking or whatever.
So the thing is what you want to do and what is to be done by you at this time and place happen to concur. So your raga is in sync with what you have to do. And also what your dvesha or what you want to avoid is what you should not do, what is not to be done. So there are two
that
things.
Immediately comes.
And both are in sync.
Very good. That is instinct, we can
I mean,
call it.
simple example that we can, I'm just putting forward is, see, loving is very spontaneous. If there is a little baby or, anyone for that matter, if it will be your swadharma, it would be spontaneous if you like, that raga is there to love the person and what you have to do. It's very spontaneous. So you express your love. Whereas what is your dvesha and what is not to be done, you want to avoid being, for instance, angry or aggressive, violent. That is not that is what you want to avoid, and that is what is not to be done. So that is also avoidance or withdrawal from such an action is also spontaneous.
There is no is spontaneous.
No need for you to think over there and then do it.
Yes. See,
That is why
another
Gurudev
example.
keeps saying, when people ask him, how come you're like this? He says, this is my nature. This is how I have been. I cannot help it. This is how it is.
Yes. One more example can be is that, say, a person is coming and immediately he falls down. And you are seeing it, and immediately, spontaneously, you will go and help him. See, that the spontaneity comes automatic.
Yeah.
You are not thinking that you should help him.
Mm.
You help him. That is what is needed at that hour, at that time. The person might be your enemy or whatever it is. If he falls or a baby falls or any accident happens, immediately you go and run and just whomsoever it is, you do that action. That is 100% action. And that is correct action.
Yeah. Spontaneous action. Thus, with reference to certain ragas and dveshas, there is spontaneity because you are in harmony with dharma. You do not rub against anything. The laws are not being rubbed against. In fact, you are in harmony with the whole setup. But if your raga dveshas do not conform to right and wrong, dharma and adharma, there is a rub. This is why Lord Krishna also said here, death in your own dharma is better. The dharma of another is fraught with fear. Swadharme nidhanam shreyaha paradharmo bhayavaha.
Beautiful. This was misunderstood many times.
So there is your raga dveshas are in harmony with dharma. So it is not just, and you conform to this, you conform to the right and wrong. The choice you have is only with reference to what you are going to do. You have no choice whatsoever about what happens in your head. Thoughts just happen and you have no control over them. But whether you go along with them or not is definitely subject to choice. Swadharma means what is to be done by oneself, one's own dharma. Dharma meaning karma here. In a society where the duties are very well spelled out, each person knows exactly what is expected of him and her. In the Vedic culture, for example, Each of the 4 groups of people, Varnas, had certain duties which were very clearly defined. For a person of a given Varna who is a student, there are certain duties. Then as a householder or married person, he or she has a different set of duties. So too for a Vanaprastha, one who is preparing for a life of renunciation. Although such clearly defined systems no longer operate in the world, one thing is clear: in any given situation, there is a certain response required on your part in terms of action, and this becomes your duty. Duty is not something that you have to be told about by someone, really speaking. It becomes evident as you look at the situation that you are in and understand it as it is. In this way, what is to be done becomes obvious to you. If you do not understand the situation you find yourself in, you can always seek help of someone in order to understand what your duty is in terms of what should and should not be done. Someone who is more informed, who has more experience, or who is more capable and placed in such a way that he or she is able to spell out your duties can do this for you.
Here,
yeah.
Here, the responsibility. The definition of responsibility: responding to the situation as required is responsibility. That is what we teach in the basic course also. That comes. So it has not to be told, it has to be taken. And it is powerful. See, all this comes here. Wonderfully explained. Here they say duty, that is your responsibility actually. In that situation, it is your responsibility to do that. Right. You are responding to the situation as it arises.
Very nice. And the second para also, if you do not understand the situation you find yourself in, then you seek help from a person who is wiser than, who is more informed and who is who has more experience. So then take that advice. The concept of Swadharma needs to be seen also in the spirit of this verse. In terms of one's own karma, Swadharma, what is to be done, even if one is destroyed in the process. Doing one's own karma is far better than doing the karma of another person, meaning that it is useless to want to do what someone else is doing. Do only what you have to do. Suppose the goalkeeper in a soccer game decides to run like the other players do, because the ball never seems to come to him anyway. It would be a disaster. In other words, if he decides to do the job of the other players, even though it is his job to stand between the posts, it would not work. What is being said here is that if standing between the posts is your job, you had better do it. If the ball does not come to you, it means the other team is not scoring goals, and if it comes too often, you can enjoy the action. It is not as though you are always going to be just standing there. Sometimes there will be some action to perform. Just because the other players run does not mean that you should run. Similarly, the job of a bolt in a piece of machinery is to just sit tight. But suppose the bolt is teased by the piston that says, "Why aren't you doing any action? I'm the only one doing anything here. All you are doing is sitting there tightly. Why don't you do something?" Hearing this once or twice, the bolt may simply say, "This fellow is just blabbering. My job is to sit tight. That's how my maker, the manufacturer, made me. Therefore, let me ignore what the piston is saying." But eventually the bolt may think, "Why should I not also move? I think the piston is actually making some sense. After all, I do sit tightly all the time while he keeps going. Should I not also do something? Then he may become my friend. I'm also part of the machinery. Why shouldn't I do anything? Having decided thus, the bolt has to struggle to move because it has been sitting so tightly for a long time. It tries to move one way and cannot. Then it tries to move the other way and begins to shift. Happily, it says, I am also doing now. 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 Whereupon the bolt falls to the ground. Before any time at all, the piston also falls out and the entire mechanism comes to a standstill, all because of one bolt wanting to do someone else's job. Can any job be said to be really better than another? Which is better for the bolt, sitting tightly or moving? Jobs differ. One fellow's job is to sit tightly. Another's job is to move. One is not to do the job of the other person in the overall scheme of things. Because someone is working hard on a construction site does not mean that someone else has to do the same. Working hard is not the issue. What is to be understood is that there are different types of work. Sitting tight is also difficult work because even though there is a tendency to move, you should not move. If, for example, you are an orderly in an intensive care unit. Similarly, each one has his or her own duty to perform in a given situation, and that duty is only to be done by the person whose duty it is. It is better to die guarding your post than to do something else just because it is more convenient, more remunerative, more likable, and so on. This does not work at all. You see this problem everywhere in today's society. If you have monetary satisfaction, you may not have job satisfaction. And if you have job satisfaction, you may not have monetary satisfaction. You may love your job, but you cannot own even a small house. Paying rent is also a problem, so that you find yourself still living in a one-room apartment. If you have job satisfaction, but such satisfaction does not produce the money you need, what kind of job satisfaction is this? A man who is in this situation usually becomes more practical when he marries. He gives up the job he loves and takes another. In terms of money, it is a better job, but now he's sitting in front of a computer all day long. The additional money providing him with no job satisfaction whatsoever. Swadharma and satisfaction. When we see someone else doing something that seems to be making the person happy, we want to do it too. But Swadharma does not work that way. In any given situation, in any given position, whatever is to be done by you, whatever that is appropriate for you, that alone is your karma, your dharma. This does not mean that you should not switch jobs. Both money and job satisfaction are important, but a number of other factors must be taken into account. If you are an artist, try to make money with your art. Produce something that will make money, something that is good. In this way, you will have job satisfaction and money also. This is the intelligent way to live. Otherwise, you will have neither money nor satisfaction. What kind of job is it, after all, that does not produce money? How can there be any real satisfaction in such a job? Your art will definitely be affected because being without the essentials of life that money provides, you will often be disgruntled. Your paintings will be angry paintings. The colors themselves will reflect your inner life. Of course, there are people who will like such paintings because they too are angry. So you may even sell some of them. In the verse under discussion, Krishna also said that the duty of another is definitely fraught with fear, bhayavaha, when you take it as your own. This being the case, it is better to do one's own duty, to do whatever is proper and appropriate, even if it amounts to death, than to do someone else's duty. In this way, you will have the satisfaction of knowing that, at least until your death, you did what you had to do. Also, if you neglect your own duty and do something else, you will be dying every day of your lifetime. You will have nothing but conflict, regret, guilt of omissions and commissions. What was to be done was omitted, and what was not to be done was committed, all of which is a living death. While you are living, you go on dying. Exercise your choice. Even though you have raga dveshas that have no connection with your dharma, you still have a choice. You can choose not to go along with your raga dveshas. You need not have anything to do with them. The only connection there need be is that they happen in your mind. You need only recognize them, nothing more. You can even be so amused by them that you will not need to read another thriller. Reading your own mind will be enough. Your mind can provide you with pages and pages of entertainment by your simply witnessing what is going on. But in terms of choice and action, you go with what you want in accordance with the norms of dharma. One's swadharma may not be as productive, as convenient, or as pleasant as one might want. Duties are certainly not always pleasant. They can be unpleasant also. Nor may they be remunerative or convenient, but you have to do only that which is your swadharma. Even though it may be viguna, devoid of any enticing, pleasing, fascinating, or satisfactory features, your own duty is definitely better for you to perform than the dharma of others. Because the dharma of others is not your dharma, it is not to be done by you. Thus, each person has certain things to do, and these are what he or she must do. One need not do what others do. The one common factor between your dharma and others' dharma is that each of you do. The actions to be done differ, situations differ, expectations differ, but each of you do what is to be done by you alone. In this way, you find your karma becomes a yajna. If you can appreciate the phenomenal forces in your life as so many devatas, as aspects and features of Ishvara, and not just dumb forces, you give them the status of deities or God. For instance, Surya, the sun, is not just an implosion that is taking place. It can be explained this way scientifically, but it is actually a blessing. That this implosion takes place there and not here is definitely a blessing. It is also a blessing that the sun rises in the morning. As a part of the whole Jagat, as the center of the entire system, the sun is a blessing. It is a blessing in every way. Just as the sun is a blessing, so too is the air, water, earth, every plant, insect, and so on. The elements are all forces that can be looked upon as devatas. By recognizing them as such, you need not tell yourself that you should work for the welfare of people. It will be spontaneous because by recognizing these forces that are working for you, you will automatically recognize fellow beings and living creatures. With this sensitivity, you will not need to be told to be kind to people, to be appreciative of their needs, to do unto others what you would have them do unto you. By being able to include the devatas, all others are naturally included. So basically, all the human values will just come up spontaneously. The books that talk about conduct and values, the Dharma Shastra, recognize this fact. If, for example, you cut a tree for any purpose, the Dharma Shastra says that you should plant and care for 10 more trees. This is to ensure that at least one of the 10 will survive. I am told American forestry departments follow this rule now. The principle of non-injury. The thinking behind this rule is that to cut a tree is to perform an injury, himsa. There is nothing wrong with cutting a tree if it is necessary, but at the same time, there should be an awareness of the principle of non-injury, ahimsa, with reference to trees and all other forms of life. Jains is completely based on ahimsa, as is Buddhism to a lesser extent. Mahavira, the founder of Jainism, highlighted ahimsa to such an extent that he instructed his followers to sweep the path in front of them as they walked so as not to trample on any insect that may be there. Also, the sweeping was to be done with feathers so that the insects would be removed from the path as gently as possible. When a person is talking, his or her mouth is to be covered to avoid bugs entering and being killed by the person. This is a kind of discipline and reflects an awareness that killing is wrong. By creating certain situations as Mahavira did, there is a symbolic heightening of one's sensitivity. A person who sweeps the path before walking on it out of fear of killing an ant will definitely not be able to kill a fellow human being. This then is what is meant by ahimsa. Human values are all based on the principle of live and let live, and at the same time are much more than that. In fact, you live in the awareness of how others make your life possible, and in return, you make their life possible rather than miserable. Their life should definitely be as happy as yours, as you want yours to be. In this way, each member of the society performs his or her duties and gains shreyas. The Vedic culture is based upon duty alone, according to the person's group and stage of life, varna and ashrama. It was in the spirit of this culture that Krishna intends to convey here what he says. To die performing one's own dharma is better. Svadharme nidhanam shreyaha. If a man is a Brahmana, his job is only to study and teach the Vedas, along with the performing of the rituals, religious duties, and prayers for the welfare of the society. If this is his job, he should do it without comparing himself to someone else. That someone else also should do his or her duty. Remuneration did not form the basis for choice of duty. Duty was prescribed. The results of abandoning one's dharma. Because
I
many
think
Brahmanas...
that word duty was prescribed. I think that is means for a Brahmana that duty is prescribed.
Yeah, this is at that point of time where all the varnas and ashramas were clearly delineated, and there was a system. There was a system that is, based on your stage of your life, whether you're a student, householder, vanaprastha or a sannyasi.
Yeah.
So that was your ashrama stage, and your varna based on whether you're a brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, or sudra. In chapter 18, we saw how each varna was given. They were all prescribed, they were all categorized based on their duties that they were doing. Based on their swadharma also, swabhava and swadharma. The results of abandoning one's dharma. Because many brahmanas have abandoned their swadharma, there are very few people who are capable of performing the religious activities that the Brahmanas are responsible for. And these few tend to be those who cannot be engineers, doctors, businessmen, soldiers, and so on. This is why the so-called religious people of today are not truly religious. Suppose, however, remuneration and satisfaction are not the criteria in terms of what I do. Because I was born in a particular family and because my aim is moksha, I know exactly what is to be done by me. My life becomes a preparation for moksha in that it enables my mind to become mature, to gain antahkarana shuddhi. Preparing the mind in this way is not an ordinary task. One's entire lifetime may be necessary to make the antahkarana mature, along with the numerous lifetimes that may have preceded this one. A person can reach his or her 80s and still have the old phobias and childhood problems that he or she had had before. It seems as though one lifetime is not enough. And because each lifetime starts with the same innocence, we have the same problems, for which there seems to be no solution. If inner maturity is such an important factor and moksha is to be gained, what money do you need to have beyond what you need to live a simple life? Of course, you must be able to buy your food and other basic necessities. Therefore, the need for money depends entirely upon your aim. Because its vision is moksha, the Vedic society is based upon duties so that the mind may be purified and be able to grasp the vision. If the aim is moksha, there is no competition. Which job you have is not an issue. And because you bring a certain attitude to it, you love doing the job that is yours to do. You know that what you require is maturity of mind, and that by performing what is to be done by you, you will gain it. Please note that the Varnashrama system is not being prescribed to cure the ills of our society. The system itself has brought about many of these ills, and no system can work forever. But the Vedic vision of this system has a certain logic and spirit which is to be understood. The spirit behind the concept of duty is still valid. Changing jobs is only necessary when the aim is money. Nowadays, there are even consulting agencies to advise you about which courses you should take, which field is currently open, where the easy jobs are, the better jobs, the more remunerative jobs. These agencies are staffed by people who earn money by giving such advice to others. The whole approach to learning and doing now has its basis in what will bring more money. For example, if a glut occurs in the field of chemical engineering, everyone becomes disinterested in that field and turns towards electronics. And when there is a glut there, those who are interested in electronics go into chemical engineering. Like this, everything keeps changing and people keep switching. Duties and rights are one and the same. When power and money are the criteria, your whole attitude changes. Whereas, if antahkarana shuddhi is the main aim, what job you do means nothing, and how well you do it means a lot. Therefore, in the Vedic society, there are only duties. There are no rights whatsoever. In fact, they are one and the same. We see this also in the American Constitution or in the Constitution of any country for that matter, where a person is granted certain rights, even the right to carry a gun. But along with that right are certain responsibilities. You must have a license and you cannot shoot simply because you happen to have a gun. Any right naturally implies a certain responsibility. You can emphasize the rights and spell out the responsibilities, the duties, which is what modern constitutions do. They specify the rights of citizens and then mention the duties associated with those rights. Or you can emphasize the duties and not mention rights at all. When you emphasize rights, you have to mention the duties and enforce them also. But when you emphasize the duties, you need not even mention the rights. Why is this? If you analyze duties, you find that all duties are interpersonal and interrelated. Duties towards the devatas or gods, towards the forefathers, towards parents, towards other members of one's family, towards fellow beings and all living creatures. In this way, you have widening circles of duty. In India, even today, the emphasis on duty is reflected in a person's speech. If you ask a man if he can come to see you, he will not say he has to go to work. He will say he has duty. And if he takes up a new job, he will say he has joined duty. He has reported to duty. He is just coming from duty. This is his duty. This concept of duty is called dharma, swadharma, one's own duty. Being a husband, for example, is a role that comes with certain duties. There is no such person called husband. It is merely a role related to someone. A man is a husband to that person. And every role has a script, which is one's swadharma. As a husband, then a man performs his duties according to the script, swadharma. In this way, his wife receives certain rights. Similarly, in her role as wife, she also performs her duties, and as her husband, he receives his rights. How can either person's rights be denied when each one performs his or her swadharma? Similarly, as a citizen, I perform my duties. The state also performs its duties, which becomes my rights as a citizen. The citizen's duties become the state's rights. Therefore, all that we have are duties. Rights come to us as a natural consequence. But we do not go after them. We do not command or demand our rights. We try only to perform our duties. Only when we do what is to be done by us is Antakarana Shuddhi possible. When our likes and dislikes are one thing and our duty is quite another, we put aside our raga dveshas and go by duty. In the process, everyone gets his or her right and there is no fight. To demand one's right always means fights. One person says, "This is my right," and the other person says the same. Neither person will fight saying, "This is my duty." This is so beautiful. So when you fight for your rights, there is only a fight that remains. Rights happen as a consequence of doing your duty. And everybody in society, if they're doing their duties, that is the interrelation between, that is the interdependence between one and the other. So if everyone is doing their duties prescribed to them or whatever is to be done by them at that point in time, then automatically the rights of others are taken care of and vice versa. But when you come from the space of demanding your rights because of your raga dveshas, then that becomes a fight. There is no demand in duty. Duty is either done or not done. In the concept of duty, there is no demand whatsoever. Whereas when one's rights are emphasized, there is always an element of demand. And wherever there is demand, there are denials and counter demands, the natural results of demanding. This is because no one has the right to demand when he or she has not fulfilled the demands of the other person. When did you write to me that I should write back to you? When did you take me out that I should take you out? When did you phone me that I should phone you? Why didn't you visit me when I was ill? Why should I visit you now that you are ill? Demand means there is always a rub in the form of a counter demand or denial. There is friction. We see this in our own homes and in the society in which we live. Daily life is nothing but demands and more demands. When people are always demanding, the society will naturally be a demanding one. We can see this by reading the newspaper columns. Everything is one continuous demand. Even groups are demanding. Teachers, nurses, doctors, patients, ethnic groups, males, females, states, and so on. The goals also seem to have some demanding. The gods also seem to have become demanding. They seem to say, unless you remember us, no rain for you. If you don't remember us, bang, an earthquake. When you have duties, you will find there is amity. And because you can never fulfill your duties completely, there is also humility. But if each person at least tries to fulfill his or her duties, as father and son or husband and wife, for example, they will meet somewhere. In so doing, understanding is possible. Otherwise, there are problems. This is why dharma is called Manava Dharma or Manusha Dharma, the dharma of a human being. Can there be any other basis for our interaction with each other that will benefit us all? If people are to live together at home, in a community, in the society, or globally, this is the only way. There is no other way. Our Shastra goes even further and tells us to take into account all the forces. Cosmically speaking also then, there is only one way, appreciating one's position, one's situation, one's station, seeing what is to be done and doing it. Following one's own dharma, swadharma anushtana in this way and not that of someone else is the very basis of karma yoga. Having said all this, Lord Krishna might have become quiet, whereupon Arjuna asked a question. So I think we will pause here for a while and just do a little manana on this. This is an important shloka that we have to understand properly. So it's open. We can all share our inputs, our understanding. So basically it starts with your likes being in sync with what is to be done. Then it becomes a spontaneous activity, spontaneous action. And what you want to avoid is what is not to be done. That avoidance also becomes spontaneous. Like, for instance, being kind to fellow creatures, being appreciative and recognizing the forces of nature. When it becomes sensitive to everything, then what arises in you is just your duty, what is to be done at that particular time and place. But whereas when you put your raga dveshas in front, and instead of duty, it becomes demand. And when you have demands, it only becomes a conflict. And in this cosmic tapestry, each one is given his or her role to perform. And based on the role that you are in at that time and place, you fulfill your responsibility. So it's actually Swadharma is roles and responsibility versus demands and you demanding your rights. Duties versus demands.
All
So
depends upon raga dvesha. I like it, therefore I have to have it. Then demand starts.
Yeah.
Raga Dvesha. When Raga Dvesha concurs with your duty, spontaneous things happen. That's a beautiful thing. What you want concurs with what we have to do.
What is to be
Then
done?
not done. Then the spontaneous thing happens, and that is dharma. Beautiful.
Also, very important is what your aim is, what your goal is. Your goal is moksha, shreyas, then your vision and whatever you do, whatever you choose to do, your free will be aligned to that. So you will do whatever is to be done only for antakarna shuddhi. But if your goal is prayers, then if your goal is money and more money, then that is it. You only end up being more and more of a samsari. What do you require to live? You require a house, some food to eat. So that simple living is what, I think that beautiful paragraph, I just want to read that one more time. Dharma. Yeah. If inner maturity is such an important factor and moksha is to be gained, what money do you need to have beyond what you need to live a simple life? Of course, you must be able to buy your food and other basic necessities. Therefore, the need for money depends entirely upon your aim. Because its vision is moksha, the Vedic society is based upon duties so that the mind may be purified and be able to grasp the vision. It is basically what values you have in your life. So if you value moksha, then you will not, you will be guided by that value itself in choosing what you have to do.
If aim is moksha, there is no competition. So good.
There is no competition. If the aim is moksha, there is no competition. Which job you have is not an issue. And because you bring a certain attitude to it, you love doing the job that is yours to do. You know that what you require is maturity of mind, and that by performing what is to be done by you, you will gain it.
Everything is values. That's what you said. You have to have a clear value in the beginning of the life itself. What you want to become and how to become. How to become will automatically come to you. You know.
Yeah.
That is what always I was from the beginning itself. Prayas and Shreyas. These are two. My father, or I don't know where I had heard it. I think Chinmayan mission only. Chinmayanandaji. There only that seed has been. So that somehow that time might not have understood it. But what is not good was clear to me. Everyone has to do that. Then you will know exactly where to go, how to go, and everything will become smooth. Everything will fall in line. That's what Guru just said. No? You start doing it, it will fall, come everything. It's on the current karma and also the past karma. Okay, you might have done many things according to the prarabdha, but we have that free will to change the course of the future, whatever it is. So whatever has happened, he says it is destiny, and what will happen is your free will. That was what nicely said by Guruji. We had that free will also, no? Very nice it was. That paragraph also is so good in it.
And even this, this is what China also was mentioning. In a yajna, there is interdependence. And
Yeah.
because what is your duty becomes the rights of others. Like your duties you perform becomes the rights of the state. And the duties that the state performs, so the government performs, becomes your duty, your rights. So then there is that beautiful interdependence, like the bolt and the piston. They both are, the whole machine depends on both of them, the whole functioning of the machine. If you consider the whole world as a huge machine, so each one of us is like a bolt or a nut or a piston, or, you know, so recognizing what you are supposed to do and doing it to the best of your ability, that becomes the rights of the others. And the world moves on beautifully. And that is how the Vedic society was. But there were no fights, there were no conflicts. Conflicts and all come only when we start putting demands. This is my right.
And that will come when you have that intense raga and dvesha. You see, when you start demanding, when you have that attachment to that raga, I want it, feverishness. Wonderful.
This is so good. You know, even when we reflect upon our workplace,
Yeah.
our approach to the management, and how when we demand, you know, you want a raise or something, you know, there, you know, money becomes your goal then.
Raga, again.
So does this mean, no, wait a minute. Does this mean that you should not aspire to have a better job? Because that is what you see happening commonly everywhere, isn't it? So there are people who change jobs. There are people who, what Swamiji says, changing jobs, if that is only for the money, then it is towards prayers. But supposing there is a need for you to change that job.
No, the main basic thing here is you should know what is your dharma. See, every person will have one unique thing with him. To find that unique thing itself is a dharma, actually. I might be very good in singing. That is my swadharma. You see? You should know what are your strength and what is your basic instinct. You know? That is what is the swadharma. If I am a painter, I will do it very, very good. And I will earn money. Doing that 100%.
But Didi, if wanting children to have a spiritual, like follow some percentage of spiritual path, is that also raga and dvesha? Raga, or like, will that also come under this?
No, that is your teacher. That you have to think that, you see, we have to, what we have learned, we have to give. we are not doing it by raga desha. We are doing it as a duty, as a mother's duty towards your child, not raga desha.
Thank you.
You're setting them on the path of dharma, and that is your responsibility there. Dharma, or towards the shreyas, the path of shreyas. So that becomes your duty and responsibility.
Yeah.
If
Thank you.
everyone understands his own duty and responsibility, there will be no fights or nothing, you see. The whole world will go very smooth. If husband understands his own duty, if wife understands her own duty, any son, brother, everyone, mother, sister-in-law, sister, brother, whatever we have relationship, if we understand our own duty towards them, then the rights of others will be automatically solved, So there will not be any demand if everyone understands its own duty.
Like Didi, you mentioned changing jobs. Sometimes doing certain karma also, like doing good things, we take inspiration from others. So sometimes in that, maybe competition also comes initially, so I think step by step, we need to uplift ourselves. And this is very, very beautiful today that that you recited and told, which is in this Bhagavad Gita, that we have to find what is our strength and do go accordingly. It's really beautiful. That really clarifies,
This has to come from the childhood only. So,
but it is really difficult. Sometimes it doesn't come, no?
No.
I don't know, for
the
me.
mother and father, they understand it, where the child moves. He is happy doing his painting, or he is happy doing his chair, this one. So we have to encourage it. That's how we will instill confidence in him, and we will our responsibility, that is duty, to find his own swadharma. You see?
Jai Gurudev, in this context, Gurudev mentioned once, so is it? Whatever is your passion, you make it as your hobby.
Hobby, yeah, that's it.
And you have to live practically also. Gurudev is so amazing. He said, practically you have to live your life. You have to work. Wherever you get more money, go work there. But whatever your passion, you make it as a hobby. Tomorrow the passion may become, big way. Then you can leave your job and continue your passion. You have to be more balanced, and that's really fantastic advice. I like it. Want to share this. Jai Gurudev.
And many times what happens, when we do a job, we will not know exactly how to go. But when you start loving your job, that becomes a way, the duty of yours. So you have to love your duty. Automatically, if you don't love it, you will change it. Automatic.
So then here, I'm talking of, supposing there is a person who loves to become, say, just giving a very normal example, wants to become a doctor, but ends up becoming an engineer. So falling in love with his engineering profession, actually speaking, that is his paradharma. His swadharma is according to his life. What he actually wanted to do was to become a doctor, but he's become an engineer. Now, with that, falling in love with whatever he's doing as an engineer, will that be fine? That is what Krishna is saying, right? If you paradharmo bhayavaha. That part, I think we have to understand. See, in the context of nut and bolt, you can understand. But in the context of you as a human being, Number one, the challenge is to find what your swadharma is, and number two is to identify what is paradharma for you.
That's what, when you take up the course, suppose that you wanted to do a doctor, but he took the engineering, he will not succeed in it. You know, in the beginning itself, parents should understand it and guide him correctly, because until 16, you will not know what you are doing it. That maturity will not be there. Automatic, you become, you will score very good in the mathematics. Automatically, you will, if you want to be an engineer, you will automatically become. But if you want to be a doctor, you will understand his compassion, his feeling for the others. Whenever there is a sick person, he is so compassionate and he helps him. So we have to, the parents and everyone has to understand that. So if they guide him, no, the medical doesn't give money immediately, so you go to engineering, immediately you will get at 25 only, you will get all that, then that is a problem, conflict. And even the student will not be faring well. He will not do engineering course also very well, and he is a failure. So we have to encourage to understand Swadharma, everyone to understand its own strength and encourage it. So the finding of own strength itself is a very, very, very big job. And that is the duty of parents also. There is a duty of even students who says, he will say, I don't want to go. So we have to be very compassionate and find it, what is the wrong and what is right. Then only he will be successful.
Jai Gurudev. All these days, I had this question in my mind, what is dharma? And we had been talking only about profession. Somewhere I used to feel that it's not only the profession, it's the aptitude with which you are born, what you are inclined to do. Like if I have a helping nature or caring nature, you won't go in for service sector. By profession, your education, you can devote to that. But there are some people who are not interested in others' life. They are not that caring also. They should opt for different kind of professions where they don't have just a desk jobs also. That kind of profession they can use. And these days, these consultants, like they take the aptitude test for the child. That's a very good system which has come up. Now, where you know the child's aptitude. And now, when you said if someone has chosen the profession of doctor and someone wanted to be engineer, you have all the option to change it anytime, or you can modify it in a sense like you become engineer, you have become a doctor, but technically you can do something in that profession. You can little bit change your profession if possible. Completely you still can change. There are people who have shifted their professions and you can be happy. Maybe just 4 or 5 years of your life you might have to devote to that.
I have seen one more example in that. He became an engineer by force or whatever somehow, but he is very, very interested in doing the things of like medical. So he went into the
Biomedical.
Not biomedical, the paramedical or like that, means hands and all that. They do know what I don't know. Post
appliances, medical. They are not the appliances. They
post
called prosthesis. Prosthesis. Yeah.
Prosthesis. And he created an engineering. He used his engineering, whatever he studied in that, and he is both the combined, and he is very, very successful. So
And here,
that happens.
yeah,
So we have to encourage everyone, wherever, anybody, not only our students or whatever it is, anybody who comes, they have to find their own swadharma first, what they like. That we have to understand it. It happened to my daughter only. My daughter was not at all interested in mathematics, not at all anything. She was only interested in animation, and she did it, and she is successful, and she passed. If I would have forced her to go to engineering, because I am an engineer, that would have not helped. Now she is successful in it. Like that, we have to understand very, very much. Mother's job is a very, very, very tough job, I tell you. And even fathers, that is the toughest we can say. But we have to understand ourselves and find anybody who is with you, brother, sister, mother, to encourage what their swadharma is, or their tendencies are, and go according to it. That is what is swadharma, I believe.
and these days, parents are also responsible,
Yeah, that is what
influencing children on the way they think. Like, in this kind of job, you are paid more, so better take that kind of a job or that kind of education. So it's parents' job now to see that they don't influence children to earn more money. Only money, that has become the only aim or the goal of parents, that the child should be earning more money. And that is how even they are influencing. Wherever there is more money, you have to take that kind of a course or education and then be in a job.
No, many times what happens, they don't.
But then
understand.
again, this is somebody just mentioned, like Guruji has mentioned this, and even I remember this. Like he said, okay, you have liking for painting or some kind of art. Don't make that as your profession, because when that becomes as your profession, you start losing interest in it. Even he said this. And for money, earning money to support your family, you have to earn good amount of money so that you take care of your family. So that has to be categorized. Oh, this is for my money, earning money, and this is my hobby. And you enjoy your hobby. So this is little conflicting me. There is a little conflict in over here.
No, it's only when you are not sure about it. You have a passion, but you're not sure about that you want to make it as a profession. Then only it comes to it, that you make it as a hobby and take another profession. But if you're
Rightly.
sure, then you go into that only.
But
For
at
example,
young age, it's difficult, no, for a child to. Not all children will
No,
be.
but
that
there are some
matured.
who can find out.
Yes,
Mrinal.
there are some. Yes,
Because
there are
I'll
some
give
who can.
Aishu's example, my daughter's example. She would always ask me what my passion was, and whether I'm doing what I'm passionate about. And she was right from the beginning very passionate about art and psychology. She would actually be one of those in her friend circle that would keep giving, advice and things like that. So she was kind of oriented towards that. And she found her calling in art psychotherapy. That is her passion, and she's finding it so fulfilling. I mean, she's found her slot. She's like, if you consider her a nut or a piston, she has found her slot, and she's happy doing what she's doing. She's not so focused on the money. She says, I'm here, I just want to do this. How much ever money I get doesn't matter. It comes as a part of a byproduct. But then my intention is to reach out to people and to basically she's in that, if you consider a nut is in the nuts place. Or if she's a piston, she's in the pistons place.
Yeah.
But not everybody has that, should I say, opportunity to do that.
Correct,
Sometimes
correct.
we are kind of misplaced.
Correct.
When
Plus,
that is the case, I think the next part will come in here. Whatever job you're given, you do it 100%.
100%.
Then that will take you towards Shreyas. Rather than cribbing and saying, oh, I don't know whether it's my Swadharma, whether it is my passion, I'm here in this. Instead of cribbing about that, the cosmos has given you that role at that point of time. So do it 100%. So that then that takes you on to your path of Shreyas. Otherwise, if you're confused and you're saying, oh, I don't know whether what I'm doing is Swadharma, am I doing Paradharma or Swadharma, and you're in that confusion, then you will only waste your time. You do it. Like for me, I wanted to become an engineer. I wanted to become a computer engineer, but then I took to medicine because my grandfather wanted someone of his children to become, and none of them could become. And I had this opportunity, and my father picked it up. He said, you have a very kind heart. You tend to give solutions to little medical problems. So I think you would do well as a doctor. So that was kind of my direction was steered from being an engineer to, and I don't have any regrets whatsoever. Absolutely none. I'm very happy doing what I'm doing. So I think that if in case we have a doubt that what I'm doing is right or wrong, then I think the next best option is not option. The next thing for us to do as mumukshus is to do it 100%.
Right.
It happened same to me. I can explain. I was very interested in architecture, Wherever there was painting going on in the building, I used to stand and see to it. And I used to love that how the windows will form, how this architecture. So I wanted to do the architecture. But what happened is I was very good in mathematics also, and this also, that also, I don't know. Yeah. It came to me directly. But in my city, in Hubli, there was no architecture studies. Hello? Then what happened is I went into engineering. So I loved that engineering and converted that engineering architecture combination. And it worked so much well with my organization. So I could give an engineering solution for a difficult architecture. It happened, and I became very successful in my job. 100% I gave it. It was wonderful. There was, you might have seen the Kingdom Tower. It was very, very difficult engineering wise. And architectural, they wanted something like that. So I found engineering solution to that architecture. So it's standing very, very well. I just loved that. And it gave me so much confidence, so much this one, so much money also, everything it came. So it is everything you should be, because there was no architecture, I did engineering. I used that engineering for an architectural marvelous. And I became successful. This is what happens, You should be always knowing what you need, and it can change automatically as times comes, because that time is what, there is no choice. You have to go to get your karma. You have to do that. Many times I feel that way. Accept that first, then see what you can do, change. So acceptance, acceptance is there.
It is not just, 1 + 1 = 2. It is not that straightforward.
Yeah.
There are many factors that come into play. Your prarabdha, what your, it's governed also by your karma and your prarabdha.
Yes, ultimately it comes to
where you are, what you are.
Acceptance, accept the situation And this one at that present moment, accept it and then go forward. Automatically the doors will open for you.
Yeah, and again, the astrology part, I would say, your chart will show the inclination where you are inclined to, where you will be successful. That shows, and it happened with my children in children's case. We went to the they took the aptitude test, and it exactly matched with their chart. So, though my children were not very keen in reading their charts, they too were amazed to see, including the swabhava, what I mean, the nature of their nature. It could read exactly the same what the aptitude test said.
So maybe astrology could be an answer, a solution to finding one's swadharma in case there is some confusion.
Yes,
Correct?
Yeah.
astrology
Yeah,
plus
surely,
see,
surely.
again
Surely.
I would caution you over here. The astrologer and your birth time has to be exactly when you were born, and the astrologer has to be good. Then it can be read properly. Otherwise, no. So, but you can confirm with taking aptitude test. If those two match, then it is 100% sure that your what is your aptitude. You will know your dharma.
Wonderful. See, really, when I look at this one, no, I became a good engineer. That's a good thing. But I joined the architecture company, and the role of my engineering with an architecture combination gave me a very, very unique place in the company, to create a beautiful structures. And that, I don't know, it came natural or it came just one. I followed whatever it was. Otherwise, if I would have told my father, no, I want to go to architecture, you have to send me, there was no, my father didn't have money to send me there. I joined whatever the colleges in that. From there, I developed myself wherever we go. Because it was near to the civil engineering was near to the architecture, I joined that. I could have joined mechanical, I could have joined electronic. That's what we don't know. It just comes. You accept the situation, go forward, change accordingly. That change, you have to see yourself where you are. And that gave me a unique position in the company. I could coordinate with all the departments for building that architectural marvel. And therefore, they valued me very, very much.
Also, your roles and responsibilities will vary with situations, time and place and situation. For instance,
Yes.
I know one of my friends whose husband was out of a job, and then she took on the role of being the earning member of the family. She started doing what she's good at. I mean, she started home catering. She started sending out pamphlets and cooking, and then they had to survive. So your roles and responsibilities depend upon the time and place. So at that particular time and place, what is expected of you, you take it up, and that becomes your swadharma. So it is not concretized. It is fluid based on the time. I'm not talking of career. Career, of course, is what we are all been discussing. But then the swadharma, it is moment to moment, isn't it? It is not just your career. Career is one aspect of your swadharma, but your swadharma is also how you relate to your people at home, the society, the world at large. So even there, your responsibility as a global citizen, that your swadharma comes up there. So based on the time and situation, based on what is expected of you, you just fall in place. What is to be done and what your raga is, that becomes spontaneous action.
Yes. And
Right?
the simple formula for that is accept situation and the people as they come at that time. everything opens for you. This I have actually very, very much, very much this one experienced in it. In my
I think we'll
profession, in
stop.
my everything.
Yeah, very nice. I think we'll stop here today and we'll continue tomorrow. We'll continue with verse 36. If anybody wants to share anything more, we'll take it up tomorrow and then we'll continue. Yeah. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Jai Gurudev. Hari Om.
Jai Gurudev.